Y'all heard the thing about the homeless in Oklahoma and what the governor is trying to do? Well, I kind of wanted to talk about it from somebody who has been homeless before. Now, as an adult, I've been very lucky and I've worked my ass off to make sure that I never was homeless. But as a child, I lived in shelters in Oklahoma multiple times. So I have an opinion. Now, we did stay in the shelter. We never lived out on the streets. And I was thankful for that because I do know people that have done that. But what I want to say is how the shelters are ran from somebody who stayed there and saw it. One, they don't have enough room for everybody who tries to go, much less the people that don't. And some of those people that don't try to come anymore, it's because they know there's not enough beds. And there's restrictions at some shelters that they won't take you unless you are a woman or a child or you are a man with a child. Now, if you're a man with a child and a wife, you still can't come into some shelters. Your wife and your child can, but you can't. So if you all want to stay together, you can't go to that shelter. But also, you have to get there in time to get a bed. What does that mean for somebody who's trying to work? Get themselves out of the situation that they're in. That means that you have to get a job that specifically will let you out in time to be back, to get in line, to get into said shelter, or you don't have a place to sleep that night. So you're having to try to choose from a place to sleep with a bed and money, but you have money and you have no bed. And until you've had to choose between working for money to try to better your situation and being safe for that night, you don't get to have a say on how somebody responds. Especially when you're somebody saying, well, I can go to work and I can get some money and try to get out of this situation, but I have children, so I have to get there in time to get a bed for me and my kids. But can you see how that's kind of set up in a way that's not really helpful for somebody to get out of that situation? And I want to say, I definitely agree that there are some people who are out there on the streets panhandling, doing that. They don't even need to be. They have a place to stay and they're doing that. But the people that are actually out there sleeping on the ground, if they could go to a shelter, I think that they should. I think that that option should be there for them. But to say, let's go to jail, what's going to happen? This is a question I want to know. What's going to happen when they take them to the shelter and the shelter says, we don't have a bed for you? What, can they be outside of the shelter and not be arrested? Like, is there a zone that they're allowed to be in? Because at that point, aren't we between a rock and a hard place? They said yes to the help. You've taken them there. Because they're like, well, last time I went, I couldn't get in. But let's go. Let's see. And they still can't get in. Where are we putting them? I just think that there are so many rooted issues that cause homelessness that we need to be talking about and we need to be working on. And I know that some people are. I feel like there needs to be more money and effort put into it. But you can't tell me that you scaring them and potentially arresting them and doing all of that is going to help them and force them to get a job and to do all these things. Because, again, we get them in the shelter. How are we getting them a job? How are we getting them a bed still? Like, there are other situations that you have to think about. And that doesn't even touch on, like, veterans that are homeless, that have issues, that have PTSD, other mental issues that are going on, drug abuse. There are so many reasons that people are homeless. Yes, we need to fix the problem. I don't think arresting them is the answer. Now, if they are doing something else illegal, if they're breaking into people's homes, if they're, like, being violent, or if they're doing drugs and they have... okay, like, let's go ahead and take them in. But if they're not hurting anybody, they're not harming anybody, they're just trying to, like, get through to the next day and be as safe as possible, why don't you just count your fucking blessings that you've never had to be homeless, that you've never had to try to find a bed at a shelter? And again, I've stayed in a shelter in 3 different states, multiple in Oklahoma. I've seen, like, people who want better for their lives. They're just struggling. And I've seen a lot of people that have a lot of mental issues and drug abuse. Like, I've seen a lot of that stuff too. But there are a lot of people who are uneducated, or some people who just had really bad luck. Why don't we just count our fucking blessings? that we haven't had to make those decisions? And why don't we try to protect those people and help them so that they can have a better life, not throw them in prison? If I'm missing something about the bill, let me know.